to do. That's what it means to set apart Jesus as Lord. It means He gets to call the shots. It means He gets to tell you what to do. And let me remind you, says Peter, of something Jesus told us to do. Let me remind you that Jesus told us that followers fish. In other words, the first reason Peter mentions why followers fish is that followers fish because Jesus commanded it. He commanded it. I was there, Peter said. I was. I heard what He said. Follow me and I will make you fishers of men. That really isn't an option for a follower. Oh, it's an option for a consumer Christian. You know what a consumer Christian is. They're people just there to get whatever that's going to be the handout, the next handout. They show up to the churches. They show up to the schools. They show up to Christians. What do you got for me? What's the next thing you're going to do for me? And how come you haven't been there lately? What have you done for me lately? And if you don't do, then I'll find out another place that does. They're consumer Christians. That's the way they are. God, what have you done for me lately? They make that an option. The fishing thing is an option for this. It's an option for passengers on the Jesus bus. You know, I got my ticket. I'm going to hell. That's all they are. I'm on the Jesus bus, and they make fishing an option. But followers, they don't make it an option. We do this because He is Lord, and He said followers fish. We do this because the one who bled and died and took our punishment told us to do it. It's as simple as that. Followers fish because Jesus commanded us to go fishing. Jesus commanded us to go fishing. That's textable right there. Except my problem is I can already hear somebody going home and saying, I'm off today, or going to call and work. I'm not going to work because Pastor told us that I'm supposed to go fishing. Pastor said, Jesus said, go fishing, so I'm going fishing. I can just hear it now. No. Don't twist that truth. Don't spin that truth. Instead, apply this truth. Followers fish for people because we've been commanded by Jesus to fish for people, to reach out and draw them into a relationship with Him. Now, you keep reading. Let me show you another reason Peter mentions as to why followers fish. He said, always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you. That word be ready there is really interesting. It's a word that we would use for our military right now, or even our police force. We want them to be in a state of preparedness. That's really what it means, a state of preparedness. That preparation is absolutely critical for our national security. It's critical for our community security. That term is actually the same term used oftentimes in the New Testament for being prepared for Jesus to come back. And that's pretty critical too. So I guess the point is followers need to be prepared to fish because it's critical. It's critical. Nothing is more important than leading somebody else into a relationship with Jesus. Nothing is more important than playing a role in somebody discovering forgiveness and freedom and salvation. We are messengers who are carrying that message. And how will people know that message unless somebody shares that message with them? Think about it this way. This is as critical as if you knew the cure to cancer. Wouldn't that be critical? If you knew the cure to cancer, wouldn't that be critical? Imagine how wonderful it would be to know that you had the cure to cancer, and you could say to somebody, listen, I see what you're going through. Some of these we mentioned today, I see what you're going through. Listen, I've got the cure. Here it is. Well, how horrible would it be, though, to know the cure but not tell anybody about it? Don't forget, folks, as followers of Jesus, we have the cure to hell. We have the cure to death. We have the cure to guilt and misery and hopelessness. So it's critical that followers fish by sharing that cure. Now, you keep reading. Let me show you another reason why Peter gives that we should fish. Always be prepared to give an answer to anyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope. Now, the word hope means is confident or exciting expectation. We talked about that this morning in the pre-service prayer time. The confident expectation we can have. And that's what it's all about, hope. This is what it's all about, folks. Hope. Hope in this world that seems so hopeless. So always be prepared, says Peter, to share with others the confident expectation you have about Jesus. That's the most thrilling thing that can ever happen to us. Be forgiven and promised eternity, right? Jesus, are you thrilled that Jesus saved you, anybody? Anybody thrilled that Jesus saved you? Well, that's the point here. Followers fish because it's thrilling. It's thrilling to tell people that Jesus thrills my life and how he can thrill them. Now, some of you who've been fishing for fish, you know what that thrill's like. That's why you keep going back, right? My father-in-law once took me fishing at the headwaters of the Colorado River. I mean, we were right up there where it started, and it was so small then you could walk across it. And I went out there, and it wasn't long before I hooked into a rainbow trout, not with that fishing rod, but one pretty close to it. May have been that one. But I hooked into a rainbow trout that gave me a fight that I just knew that I was going to pull a fish out of that water. It was bigger than I was. You know what I mean? That rod, woo! I mean, it was bent over. In fact, the funniest thing was my brother-in-law, Mark, was with me. And I mean, I've hooked in that thing, and I'm going on, and all of a sudden I look at it, and the reel popped right off the rod. Boom! And I'm thinking, what in the world? And I'm grabbing into the water, trying to hold on a rod, and I got that thing back on there. And that fish was still there, believe it or not. So Mark's helping hold the reel on the rod while I'm reeling in that fish that was bigger than the both of us. And I got that thing in, and it was a rainbow trout, about that big. But it was fun. And my father-in-law, bless his heart, he never tired of telling the story about us going fishing that day. He said Russell may have waded across that water going out, but when he came back, he walked on that water. It was thrilling. Now, let me tell you something. Fishing for people is even more thrilling. It's thrilling to share with people how Jesus gave me hope when I was hopeless and I was lost. And it is thrilling for me to share with people how he gives me hope now, even when things seem so hopeless. And that's why I want all of you to experience this yourselves. There just aren't many other experiences that can give you that kind of thrill. There just aren't many other things as moving as knowing you played a part in somebody else's salvation. That's why I want all of you to have this experience. That's why I want all of us to be followers who fish. But you keep reading, you're going to find one other reason Peter gives us as to why followers fish. And I think this is the one I just want to make sure you catch. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. Here's my thought. Followers fish because they were once caught. Followers fish because they were once caught themselves. We have the hope of eternal life because somebody threw out a lure and fished for us. I thank God that my grandmother was willing to go fishing for one of her grandsons. She was primarily responsible for me becoming a follower of Jesus. She was. There were others, but she was the follower who fished for me. Now, at first, I didn't want to listen to her. I didn't want to listen to her. I didn't want to. I didn't want to do that. But she just kept casting out that lure and kept finding another way to say it, and finally hooked me and reeled me. And basically, the lure that she used was her unconditional